Separation of Substances, Science Class 6. Today we will discuss here separation of substances like sieving, winnowing, condensation, evaporation, handpicking, and many more. The main key words we will discuss here: churning, condensation, decantation, evaporation, filtration, handpicking, saturated solution, sedimentation, sieving, threshing, and winnowing. Learning objectives. In this chapter, learner will be able to investigate the separation of substances by different methods like handpicking, winnowing, sieving, sedimentation, decantation, and filtration. He also will be able to differentiate in size of particles in a mixture which is utilized to separate them by the process of sieving and filtration. In a mixture of a sand and water, the heavier sand particles settle down by the decantation. He will also able to know filtration can be used to separate components of a mixture of an insoluble solid and a liquid. Evaporation is the process in which a liquid gets converted into a vapor. Evaporation can be used to separate a solid dissolved in a liquid, and finally, water dissolves a different amount of soluble substances in it. Here we can see the example of sieving and churning. Like tea leaves are separated from the liquid with a strainer while preparing tea. Milk or curd is churned to separate the butter. Suppose you are given a basket containing mangoes and guavas and you ask to separate them. What would you do? Pick up one kind of substance and place them in a separate container, right? And observe it. Now imagine you are given a glass of sand with salt and mixed it. Now you have to separate the things which you feel impossible even to think of separating salt from the mixture by picking out the grain of sand by hand. Why do we separate substances? From this table, we do have separation process, purpose for which we do separate, and what do we do with the separated substances. Number 1. Separate stone from the rice means to separate two different but useful components, or we throw away the solid component. In second, churning milk to obtain butter, the process is to remove non-useful component, and the use of it we throw away the impurities. Finally, the third one, separate tea leaves to remove impurities or harmful component. We use both the components. Now here we will discuss handpicking. The substance to be separated may be particles or different sizes or materials. These may be solids, liquid, or even gases. So how do we separate substances mixed together if they have so many different properties? In this method of handpicking, we use separating slightly larger size impurities like the piece of dirt, stone, and husk from the wheat, rice, or pulses. As shown in figure 5.3, the quantity of such impurities is usually not very large. In such situation, we find that handpicking is a convenient method of separating substances. Here we do have threshing, the process that is used to separate grain from stalks, etc., is threshing. In this process, the stalks are beaten to free the grain seeds as shown in figure 5.4. Sometimes threshing is done with the help of bullocks. Machines are also used to thresh large quantities of grain. Winnowing. Now take your mixture to an open ground and stand on a raised platform. Put the mixture in a plate or sheet of paper. Hold the plate or the sheet of paper containing the mixture at your shoulder height. Tilt it slightly so that the mixture slides out slowly. What happens? Do both the component, sand and sawdust or powder leaves, fall at the same time, same place? Is there a component that blows away? Did the wind manage to separate the two components? This method of separating components of a mixture is called winnowing. That means winnowing is used to separate heavier and lighter component of a mixture by wind or by blowing air. The husk particle carried away by the wind, the seeds of grain get separated from a heap near the platform of winnowing. The separated husk is used for many purposes such as fodder for cattle. Sieving. Sieving allows the fine flour particles to pass through the holes of the sieve while the bigger impurities remain on the sieve. In the flour mill, impurities like husk and the stone are removed from the wheat before grinding it. Usually, a bag full of wheat is poured on a stalling sieve. The sieving removes pieces of stones, stalk and husk that may still remain with wheat after threshing and winnowing. You may have noticed similar sieve being is used at construction site to separate pebbles and stone from sand as shown in figure 5.7. Sedimentation. When the heavier component in a mixture settled after water is added to it, the process is called sedimentation. Decantation. When the water along with the dust is removed, the process is called decantation. And filtration. Finally, when we decantation, leaves remain in the strainer or impurities are still remain in it. This process is called filter or filtration. Fruits and vegetable juices are usually filtered before drinking to separate the seeds and solid particles of pulp. The method of filtration is also used in the process of preparing cottage cheese or paneer in our homes. You might have seen that for making paneer, a few drops of lemon juices are added to milk as it boils. This gives a mixture of particles of solid paneer and a liquid. The paneer is taken separated by filtering the mixture through a fine cloth or a strainer. Evaporation. Heat the beaker containing the salt water as shown in figure 5.11. Let the water boil away what is left in the beaker. In this activity, we use the process of evaporation to separate a mixture of water and salt. The process of conversion of water into its vapor is called evaporation. The process of evaporation takes place continuously wherever water is present. Where do you think salt comes from? Seawater contains many salts mixed in it. One of these salts is the common salt. When seawater is allowed to stand in a shallow pit, water gets heated by sunlight and slowly turn into water vapor through evaporation. In a few days, the water evaporates completely, leaving behind the solid salt as shown in figure 5.12. The common salt is then obtained from the mixture of salts by further purification. Now we need to separate salt and water from the decanted liquid. Transfer this liquid to a kettle and close the lid. Heat the kettle for some time. Do you notice steam coming out from the spout of the kettle? When the steam comes in contact with the metal plate cooled with ice, it condenses and forms liquid water. The water drops that we observed falling from the plate were due to condensation of steam. The process of conversion of water vapor into liquid is called condensation as shown in the figure. Take the metal plate with some ice on it, hold the plate just above the spout of the kettle as shown. What do you observe? Let all the water in the kettle boil off. Did you ever see water drops condense under the plate that has been used to cover a vessel containing milk that had just been boiled? After all the water has evaporated, what is left behind in the kettle or the pot? We have thus separated salt or any other matter, sand and water using process of decantation, filtration, evaporation and condensation. Can water dissolve any amount of substance? After adding a few spoons of salt, do you find that some salt remain undissolved and settled at the bottom of the beaker? If yes, this means that no more salt can be dissolved in the amount of water we have taken. This kind of solution is now saturated. That means this phenomena is called saturation. Take some water in a beaker and mix the salt in it until it cannot dissolve any more salt. This will give you a saturated solution of salt in water. Now add some quantity of salt to this saturated solution and heat it. What do you find? What happens to the undissolved salt in the bottom of the beaker? Does it dissolve now? If yes, can some more salt be dissolved in this solution by heating? Let us hot solution cool. Does the salt appear to settle at the bottom of the beaker again? Yes, this activity suggests that larger quantity of salt can be dissolved in water on heating. Now this is activity for you. Take two glasses and pour half of a cup water in each of them and a teaspoon of salt to one glass and stir it till the salt dissolves. Go on adding the salt 1 teaspoon at a time till the solution saturates. Record the number of spoons of salt that you dissolve in the water as shown in table 5.2. Just fill it. Now repeat the same activity with sugar and find out your observation. Repeat this for some other substances as well which are soluble in water. What do you notice from the table 5.2? Do you find that water dissolves different substances in different amounts? At the end of this chapter, we have discussed a few methods of separating substances. Some of the methods of condensation presented in this chapter are also used in a science laboratory. We have also learned that a solution is prepared by dissolving a substance in a liquid. A solution is said to be saturated if it cannot dissolve more than substance on it. Now here the assignment for you. See the exercise and answer the questions as shown in the assignment.